should you wake up tired, overthink simple tasks,
Nick
beat
just
yourself
killed,
up
I
for
told
not
you.
doing enough. But this isn't laziness, it's a broke mentality fed by years of self-doubt and nervous system burnout. That's why we created Liven, to help you break free from the cycle. In just 12 weeks you'll rebuild your focus, overcome the mental blocks holding you, finally get things done without the constant pressure. Take the 3-minute quiz to discover your procrastination type and start taking control of your time today. Procrastination.
Ovaj šator izgleda baš dobro. Sigurno košta bar 5000 dinara.
Ne, nije toliko skup.
6000 dinara.
Ne, još je jeftiniji.
Onda je sigurno loše kvalitete.
Nipošto. Širina mu je 200 cm. Cijela porodica može da kampuje u njemu. Postavlja se lako kao kišobran, samo ga podigneš i otvoriš i gotovo. Kad se spakuje, zauzima minimalno prostora, super je kompaktan. Još je izdržljiv sa čvrstom ramom, vodootpornom tkaninom i UV zaštitom.
Brzo, reci mi kako da ga nabavim.
Uzmi ga sad po specijalnoj cijeni uz 465 dinara promociju na temu. Klikni na video i poruči odmah.
Hello and welcome, friends. So there's been a lot of discussion on the area of expertise recently. Some would argue that being not an expert in who is and isn't an expert, I do not have the expertise to comment on the subject of expertise, but being somewhat of a layman, an amateur, I'm going to comment on it anyway because it is my right as an Englishman. The main question that has been arising is whether we should trust the experts. This has most recently been discussed, or most famously in recent times been discussed on the Joe Rogan podcast, where Dave Smith and Douglas Murray came to a bit of a clash over the subject, where Douglas Murray did not acquit himself very well and came across very smug, pandering and superior to Dave Smith, who was simply making the statement that whether or not you are a credentialed expert should not prevent you from having the right to discuss a particular subject, particularly if you have read up on it and are quite knowledgeable in it anyway. And that is something that I agree with. I do agree, of course, that you can have varying levels of correctness. You can be right or wrong on a subject, and laymen can be correct on a subject while experts are wrong on a subject. Of course, ultimately, what it should always come down to is assessing the arguments that are presented on their own merits, regardless of who is presenting the argument. And the thing that has really diminished trust in the expert class over the past few years has been, in particular, the COVID fiasco. I won't go too much into it, but essentially for a long time we were lied to about COVID, about its effects, about the necessity of lockdowns, 2 weeks to stop the spread, etc., etc. And that really destroyed the credibility of a lot of people, especially when in events that happened afterwards, the expert class themselves, including people like Fauci, were shown to have or admitted to explicitly lying for the sake of political consensus, for the sake of pushing a particular agenda. Now, many people have commented on this. There were quite a few people defending Douglas Murray. There were many, many more people mocking and condemning Douglas Murray. And I was very, very critical of him myself because, more than anything, his arguments came from a place of credentialism and outright dishonesty in many ways. But this conversation has still been going on, and the most recent interesting conversation I've seen on it has been this debate between Dave Green, otherwise known as the Distributist, on his YouTube channel, with Nathan Coffness. Now, Nathan Coffness is an interesting character because he is a lecturer, I believe, either at Cambridge or Oxford University in England, and exists within what you could call the expert class. Except he considers himself and acts as somewhat of a dissident. Now, this is because he
stvar.